Continuing here in the letter Chaf for Kvoid Chaveroi, the proper honor and respect we should have for our friends. So the Chaim brings down the following. There's a Gemara in Megillah, and the Gemara says, Sholo Talmida v'Rebbi Nechunya ben Akana. The Gemara has a slew of cases over there where the Amoraim had a long life, Arichas Yomim. And the Gemara understands that if a person has Arichas Yomim, they have a long life, more normal than a regular person, it must be that there's some schus, some kind of merit that you have, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu deemed fit to give you extra years of life. So the Gemara asks, the Talmidim, the students ask, Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana, Bameh harachta yomim, what did you do so special in your life that you merited to have a long life, extra days? So Amalem, he said to them, Miyomai, all my life, Lo nischabadati b'kloin chavere, I never ever got honor, or I never found honor through the kloin, through the disgrace of my friend. Meaning, I never took advantage of the shame or the disgrace that somebody else had in order to make myself a more honorable type of a person. There's a famous story with Rav Moshe Feinstein Zatzal, that when he was in the end of his life, he ended up developing a heart problem. And the only way to solve the problem was to give him a pacemaker. And they were put in the pacemaker, and Baruch Hashem, everything was running well. And he was in the hospital, and his children came to see him, and they saw that their father was in great distress. So they said, Tati, what's the matter? Baruch Hashem, you had a surgery, the pacemaker's in, your heart is beating now, everything is fine. He said, because it bothers me. What did I do wrong that I had to have such a heart problem to begin with? It must be that I did something wrong, otherwise HaKadosh Baruch Hu would not have punished me like this. So he said, I was mefashfesh b'maisev. I thought about my actions, and I started reviewing day by day my life. I went back 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Imagine a man was able to think to himself all of the years of his life, what he did. He went back 60 years in his life to when he was a bacher in yeshiva. And he says, I was once learning with my chavrusa, and we got into an argument about what the pshat in the Gemara was. And I said it's one way, and he said the other way. And we were arguing back and forth. Neither of us would give in. So we said, let's go ask the Rebbe. So we went and we asked the Rebbe, whose pshat is right? And after I argued my point, and the other one argued his point, the Rebbe said that he was wrong and I was right. And for a moment, I smiled in pleasure that he was wrong and I was right. Said Rav Moshe Feinstein, the feeling of pride that I had in my heart at that moment, that I was walking out on top, improving because of the disgrace of my friend, that's the reason HaKadosh Baruch Hu afflicted my heart right now. Said Rav Nechunya ben Akana, that the reason that I was zeicher to a long life is because all my life, I never, ever, ever became better because of the downfall or the disgrace of my friend. Uber Mechilta, it says in the Mechilta, we know that when a person has to bring a korban, they have to go to the Mizbeach. So there's two ways you could get up to the Mizbeach. Either they could have built a staircase, or they built a ramp. So the Torah says that they built a ramp. What's the reason they built the ramp and not a staircase, which would probably be the more natural way to do it? Because as the Gemara says over there, that the Mechilta says that if you'd have to ascend the staircase, so you'd have to take long strides. And remember, all the men wore like tunics back then, almost like dresses. So as they were taking the long stride up the step, what would end up happening? Their legs would spread out, and the stairs would end up seeing their private parts. So that would be a disgrace to the stairs that were leading up to the Mizbeach to see such a thing. So therefore they made a ramp instead, and therefore there was no long strides, and nothing was ever revealed. Says the Mechilta, it's a logical deduction over here. Stones which have no das, they have no mind, they have no thoughts. And Hashem says, don't disgrace the stairs by taking long strides and letting it see your undergarments and your private area. So if that's how careful we are with the staircase, so chavercha, your friend, shu bidmusai shel mi shama v'haya olam, who's created in the image of the one who said, let's create the world, the Ribono Shel Olam, dinhu shalai tinag v'minag bizayin. How much careful do we have to be to make sure that we don't do anything disgraceful to our friend? If you're going to care about the stairs, so then how dare a person do anything that would be a bizayin, that would be a disgrace to a human being? My son was once by someone's house for Rosh Hashanah Suda at night. And it's brought down in the Shulchan Aruch that one of the things that we don't eat on the night of Yom Kippur, on Rosh Hashanah, one of the things we don't eat on Rosh Hashanah at all are sour foods. Because since there's so many simanim that we have, everything we want to be sweet. We want it to be a good year, a sweet year. We don't want it to be a sour year. So therefore we avoid sour things. It gets a little problematic when you're trying to make salad dressing. What can you use? Vinegar. You shouldn't use vinegar because it's sour. Shouldn't do such a thing. So he was by the house of a big Baal Halacha, a fellow who is very much a master of Halacha, big Talmid Chacham. And his wife put onto the table cucumber salad. And the cucumber salad was drenched in vinegar. And the husband takes one bite. Now remember, the reason that we don't eat sour foods on Rosh Hashanah is because we don't want to have a sour year. So the minhag, the custom is in the food itself. So this man, big Talmid Chacham, takes a bite and he says to his wife in front of the table, "What did you do? You put vinegar into the cucumbers. It's sour. We can't eat sour food." So my son said he was sitting there and he was thinking to himself, wait a second. You're not eating sour food because you want to make sure you have a sweet year. And here you are embarrassing your wife in front of the whole table because she ended up putting vinegar into the cucumbers. So we hope they had a sweet year that year. I assume that they did. But Lamaisa, that's the point that he's saying over here. If we're going to be so careful on the things that we do to the stones, to the cucumber salad that we're going to make on a Rosh Hashanah, so then al-achas kama v'kama, how much more so do we have to be careful with the kavod, with the honor that we give to our fellow Jew, and not to create chalila any bizayin, any embarrassment to them. And one last thing he brings from Pirkei Avos, yikavod tamidcha chaviv alecha kesholach. The honor of your students should be as beloved to you as your personal honor, which means you have to be very careful the way that you speak to your students and your talmidim, and I assume that it will go for one's children as well. Ukvoid chavercha, and the honor that you have for your friend, k'mor rabach, should be like the fear, the awe that you have of your Rebbe, of your teacher. Meaning, just like in Chalila, you would never do anything that would be an embarrassment to your Rebbe. You would never do anything that would be out of line without the proper honor and respect. So that's the way that we should treat our chaverim, our friends as well. It should be with mora. It should be with tremendous awe and reverence to make sure that we treat them in the proper way as well.